Hi guys, so this is Tulsa King episode 7, or as I guess I might as well call it, the one where the woke comes back. And you know, I do kind of have to take a note from Tony D and point out that yeah, the mob guys really should not be woke. And there's a moment in this episode where, and I do apologize for the noise of the dogs moving around in the background, I am at Stormy's. But the thing that bothers me more than the bit of woke with Tyson talking to the guy who had the dreads before is the emotional neediness of Chicky towards the end of the episode. This is a guy who's been groomed probably most of his life to be a mob boss. And yeah, the fact that he feels the need to try and seek validation from his father, I understand it. But by the same token, Pete, his father, is a very traditional guy. Regardless of the fact that he's a mob guy, he's a very traditional individual. And that very traditionality, or traditionalism, kind of makes it unlikely that he's going to have any sort of emotional bond with his kid. Thank you, love.
You're welcome.
Stormy just brought me coffee because she is an incredibly good woman. But, yeah, the emotional neediness that Chicky is displaying towards the end, that final scene in the episode that he does with Pete, it's really out of place. And more out of place, really, than Tyson, who's a young guy who was kind of incubated in the woke stuff, talking about dreads on a white guy, which, for the record, yet again, I will point out, dreadlocks are prehistoric in nature. They're not a black hairdo. Granted, they may have been traditionally absorbed into black culture. That doesn't mean they get to claim it completely, as far as I'm concerned. Now, that said, I'd look like absolute crap with dreads, so that's why I'll probably be shaving my head again at the end of this week. But other events in the show, obviously with Pike having been taken out the episode before and then buried in a unmarked grave behind what looked like a barn or warehouse. And again, you know, the dialogue between Dwight and Garrett Hedlund's character, Mitch, I believe, very good. It's fairly simple. Oh, excuse me. Fairly simple. Fairly... It's not particularly ornate, but it's well done. I have to try and change my camera angle just a second. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, the dialogue between Mitch and Dwight is very simple. It's very much friend-man sort of conversation. I do love that there's a point in this where Dwight shows, or gets shown by Bodhi, that Bodhi is not actually some sort of inept or incompetent or bumbling by any means sort of individual. He shows Dwight a very substantial amount of money that he has accrued. And in what is probably one of the best lines delivered in the show, looks directly at Dwight and says, "Did you think you were the only criminal in Tulsa?" And both me and Stormy, who was watching the episode with me, went, "Oh yeah, I like that guy now." And yeah, up until this point, he seemed very effete and very wishy-washy. But with that one line, he has totally transformed his character. And I really hope it maintains through the rest of the show, because seeing a man being competent and confident in his competence is very, very enjoyable. Which is why Dwight is such a likable character. At least for me. The informant, I forget her name, Roxy, I believe it is. She ends up, of course, attempting, because Stacy sends her to do so, attempting to get more secrets from Waltrip. It ends badly. The ramifications of Chickie's attack on Tina's husband kind of seem to peter out. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen next, of course, because Pete now is no longer in the show. Yeah, you know, I'm spoiling a lot of stuff, but I do assume you guys have seen the show by this point. What else? There's not a lot of time with Tyson in this show, actually. I think he only shows up for 2, maybe 3 scenes. Just long enough to be a plot device, basically. One moment. Okay. So yeah, the ramifications of what happened with Tina's husband. I don't know what's going to happen now. Chickie's new look, obviously he took off the wig. I didn't even realize it was a wig, but it kind of makes sense considering his dad's hairline, which isn't really all that accurate. Generally, the male pattern baldness passes through the woman. But yeah, the way that they did that was very good for a cinematographic. That seems fair. But from a cinema standpoint, it was a great way to show that things are going to change significantly, because not only did he take the wig off, he also shaved his head, and now looks significantly more like, God, what was the actor's name? Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. And other than the couple of bits of woke stuff, it was a very good episode. There continues to be that kind of give and take between the old and the new, both within Dwight's life itself and within the broader scope of the Mafia. Obviously, Chickie being the new Mafia. There was one scene where Chickie goes to church, and it's kind of ironic that the priest recognizes him while he's on his knees. Even Stormy's giggling at that line. But it's good to see Dwight's actions as a strong father figure have actually made an impact on Tina's on Tina's opinion of him, because not just what he did to Nico, but also what he immediately goes into protective mode when he finds out that Tina's husband was attacked. He takes it as a signal that bad things may be coming. He refuses to return for Pete's funeral, which is not particularly surprising, considering that you can see wheels turning. And this is another great thing where Stallone's dramatic turns are actually showing. Where he, you can see him, portraying the character as someone who's a thinker. And you can see the wheels turning. Even while he is obviously emoting grief. Because, I mean, he was very, very loyal to Pete. So, a lot of this stuff is going to end. I expect the last 2 episodes to be a bit of a war. From what I understand, Tulsa King has already been greenlit for a 2nd season. Don't know if that's necessarily a great idea. But that pretty much tells us that it's a bit more of a mirror of the 80s hard man sort of movie where Stallone is going to survive. Personally, I hope Mitch, the bartender, survives. I really like that character. I really hope Bodhi survives now that Bodhi has kind of revealed that he's got teeth. Or at least he's got some juice. Obviously, physically he's not very effective, but considering the weapons that he uses are digital and financial, I'm still impressed. And that's kind of where we have another clash of the old and new, because Dwight comes to Bodhi and says, I have this idea, and Bodhi kind of poo-poos him and kind of puts a little bit of a power play to Dwight by going, I'm the golden goose. And, yeah, Bodhi is obviously aware that he is negotiating from a position of strength, and it's very good to see. I think, is there anything else I really need to cover? Oh, yes. So Dwight finally gets, I suppose, a dinner invitation from the lady who owns the ranch. There's a little bit of back and forth. Dwight points out that he had killed a guy because they were being honest. At which point you can see a change come over the actress's face. Which to me, and to Stormy, who also interpreted it, we both assumed, okay, she's just lost interest. The next question out of her mouth was, what does it feel like to kill someone? That to me should be a massive red flag for Dwight. And Dwight's response is, you're a very unusual person. So yeah, I could see that creating a bit of problem for him with Stacy if Stacy finds out that this is going on, because Stacy does, the ATF agent does show up to confront Dwight about whether or not he had killed Carson. There's some funny stuff with the subtitles, because at one point Dwight is walking away and the subtitles read, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Or who do you think you're talking to? And there's no actual verbalization on screen. Similarly, when Pete is in the tub, he's talking about how his father was a good man. And he says that his father wanted him to be a carpenter. But the subtitles say cop. There's a big difference there. And of course, this leads into Chickie's emotionally needy sort of moment, which kind of turned me off the show a little bit. But all in all, this still looks like it's a great show. And out of 10, I'd probably give this episode a 7.5. But it's obviously leading to something way bigger. What else would I say? Yeah, I absolutely still recommend this show. And I am excited to see the next 2 episodes. So, tune in next week. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If you're feeling particularly generous, I do have Subscribestar and a PayPal. I'm currently sitting, I believe it was 205? Yep. 205 subscribers as of yesterday evening, which that means I gained 3 after my 200 celebration yesterday. Which, if you haven't seen that, I think I actually rewatched it with Stormy yesterday evening, and it was quite entertaining even for me, which I rarely watch those back. So it's quite entertaining. Other than that, I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.